Masech Menahot Daf Mem Bet Amud Aleph, 32 lines down. Rab Nachman Ashkehel Rab Ada Bar Ava Ram Yehut Rab Nachman one time found Ada fixing his threads to his garment. Become a verich lasos sitting saying beracha Baruch Atah Shalom Aleichem. مع الشكل من زمان على سيسيت. ما سيسي شمعنا what do you mean you're saying sisi? Hachi Kamara Rav said sisit en bracha en tzricha beracha. He's like, why are you saying beracha? You don't make beracha on the putting on of the strings. כי נحن شتى ربنا when Huna passed away al Rav حزدا المير من Rav Ada حزدا went to the midrash. And he had a stira against Rav against between Rav. Mia Rav says in Brexit beracha. Does Rav really hold there's no beracha? Amar Rav Huda Amar Rav. Minan says the Ba'od Chavim Shei Pislah. How do we know that a sisit string by a goy is pasul? Shnamar Pasuk says Daber el Bnei Yisrael ba'asulim sisit. Bnei Yisrael ya'asulim v'lo avdei Chacham ya'asulim. Only Bnei Yisrael can make them not goyim. So therefore, for sure, no beracha. Va'amai Rumias, what's the contradiction? It's saying the exact same thing before. There's no beracha. He says no. Mar Yosef Kasvar Rav Hizda held Kol mitzvah sheiksheret avrachavim b'Yisrael in tzarich levarech. He held that when a goy can do it, there's no beracha by a Jew. Kol mitzvah sheb'slav avrahim when there's no beracha when it's pasul by a goy, b'Yisrael tzarich levarech by a Jew it would be required. Uklalahu, does that mean is that always the concept? The baramila, the ksher levarachim, but we know a Jew, a goy that is able to do a brit milah for a Jew, and there's no beracha, and there is a beracha. Remember, it says, "Ayush in barofei Yisrael." There's no Jewish doctor in the town. Yesh barofei Aramai barofei Kuti. There's a Aramean doctor or a Kuti doctor. Kuti is a sketch Jew. Emu Aramai be'enyam Kuti. The Aramai do it, not the Kuti. The other American Kuti lo Aramai, the vice versa. So we see that the goy can do brit milah. But he says but the Jew makes the beracha. The Rambam, like Rabbi says, Hamal Yamer Beruch Hashek Shem Zatzivana Alamila. We know the Jew when he does brit milah, he says it. So we see that there is a thing that a goy can do something, even if when a Jew does it, it is a beracha. Rav says, "Mi dehud tamid Rav." Is there any other reason besides what Rav said? No, there's another explanation. Rav Misa Pasul. Rav says Pasul. Rav says, "Minan the milah ba'avrahim b'shvila daru bar papa mashmed Rav Amar." He says, "Name of daru papa." Va'ata et beriti tishmor. You shall wash my brit. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Hamol yemol." Double lashon of circumcision. Hamal yemol, which means if someone does the brit milah, he shall say the beracha. Yani one who does brit milah for himself can't. Yani a Jew who gets brit milah can do brit milah for others. Therefore, we say Rav, who held that cannot be done by a goyim, holds that this applies over here. That a beracha done over mitzvah that cannot be done by a goy is only said there, but not by when it can be done by goyim. Sukkah is silent. I could bring a proof from Sukkah. Tefillin have it yufta, but tefillin's the problem. Why? How does Sukkah should have because a Sukkah by a goy is mutar. In other words, it says Sukkah but Sukkah made by a goy, Sukkah nashim by a woman, Sukkah by an animal if the animal dug out something, or used the animal as a Sukkah. Sukkah kutim where Sukkah made by a kuti. Sukkah mekom mekom enta Sukkah kishiras kasher. But sheyetem sechid as long as done sechach correctly. We still in three level, but we still doesn't know berachah. The time it says Ha'oseh Sukkah la'asmo omer Baruch Atah Shem Halam shehirim k'melaz marzeh. بعد الشيء when he sits in it, Baruch Hashem Nechlam L'Sheva Sukkah. Be'ilu La'asot Sukkah Lo Mevrech. There's no beracha for making a sukkah. As we see from here, from the sukkah, we see that a mitzvah that's done by a goy, there's no beracha when you be like it. Gemara says Tiflin Tiyuftan. Even a question how, but it's leading this plural of him because the Tiflin that's made by a goy is pasul. Tamer Behinana David Rab Mefarshina. He says Sefer Torah Utfilin Umzua Shektavan Torah Tiflin Umzua in by a goy. Sorry, by Tzeduki, Kuti, Tzeduki is like a person who does not believe Shalal Peh, a Kuti or a Goy, Eved, Isha, Vikatan, Mumar, a slave, a woman, a minor, or a rebellious Jew, pissing the vessels. Shneimar, Uksharatam, Uktatam, only a person who's putting, Kol Shieshna Bikshira, the only person who has a Hayub to put it on is able to write it. Kol Sheina Bikshira, any person who does not write cannot. Tie cannot write. When makes no beracha. Teshlach here b'derev huna mishmei Rabbi Yochanan. Atfin jarim when you put on the tefillin sheyad beracha tashna neich tefillin. Alzein shel rosh nemar b'pan rosh rosh nemar amsat tefillin. You la'asot tefillin b'derech with no beracha to make tefillin. Proof. Pasul by goy. Yet no beracha when a Jew makes it. Must be the different reason. Any mitzvah that the making of it is a mitzvah. Kigon mila like mila or Afa agav dikshira brachim even though it's kasher if done by a goy beIsrael tzarich leverech the Jew has to make a bracha when he makes it. Mechol mitzvah she'asilah l'gmar mitzvah any mitzvah that when you make it there's no mitzvah something like tefillin or sukkah. Afa agav the avrachim even though it's Even though it's pasul by a goy, Beisrael no tzarich levet no mitzvah, there's no beracha when Jew makes it. وبتزيد بقى كمثل regarding to the seat is a machloket. More so about Chovat Talito. Harisa holds it goes according to the garment. Therefore, putting the strings doesn't mean anything. No beracha. Sorry, putting the strings is what makes the bracha, and therefore it makes the mitzvah, therefore you do need bracha. Or more so, Chabad Gavrahu, when Rav goes for the person, therefore the strings no need bracha. Amal Rev more the Hilir Vashe, Atunachi Magnitinu, that's how you learn it. Anan, we learn it, we learn it as follows. Amar Abu Damarav, we know that Barachim Shiksha, I know that if me by a goy is muta, is kasher, Shamar Daber El Bnei Israel, Ve'asula Hem Sisit, make for them, yeah, Asula Aharim, even others make it, it's okay. Amar Damarav, As'an min hakotzim is only seed from like thorn threads. Umin hagnimin or embroidery threads. Umin hagiradin or from like fringes, like types of certain type of things when they use to sew, they use different type of threads. There's a lot of pasul. Min hasisin kishira, but regular thread balls they're kasher. When he said to Shmuel, he said, "Af min hasisin even from the balls of thread is pasul. Bainan tiviyah lishma because it must be spun lishma, must be spun with the sake of mitzvah." We see the same thing. Tzipan zahav, if you cover tefillin with gold, or behemat me'ah, or if you draped the hide of a non-kosher leather on top of it, pisal pasul. Or behemat keturah, you use the hide of a kosher animal, kesherut kasher. Ba'afa pishalo, ibedam nishman, even if you do not tan the hide for that tefillin for that sake, it's still kasher. If Shimon Yogamer, af or behemat keturah, even if it's kasher animal hide, pisal ashi ibedam nishman, it has to be done lishma. So to over here, the degree of here regarding seed also needs lishma. How do you die techilet? Amar Lei said, "Matitan dam halazon v'samanin." We bring the blood of the hilazon creature. The hilazon creature, we'll talk about in a couple of days how they used to retrieve it, and certain type of herbs. V'raminan le biyora, they would put it into a pot and boil it. V'shaklina purta be'artan, they use a little bit of eggshell to put the dye into. V'saminan le we first test it in wool to see if it works. Then we spill out that dye. V'kalina le udra, and then we burn that wool that was used for testing as well. Shamina tlot b'nem 3 halachot. Shamina ta'ima p'sal, we must see that the thing that was used as a test is pasul. Shamina ve'inan se'ait lishma, we also need that the dyeing it for lishma. And therefore, if you tested it, it's pasul. They also learn from here that if you are testing it to see if it's indigo, for example, it makes the entire thing pasul. That's why you have to put it into an eggshell and spill it, not put it back into the vat. One second, it's the same thing. No, testing it makes it pasul. Same thing as making it lishma. No, doing it for lishma. Rashi, no. It's the same halacha, and he's explaining the reasoning. My tam tima. Why is testing it make it pasul? Mishum deveina tvi'at lishma, because we died lishma for the mitzvah. Kitan lachatayim taima pizla machot. He says dying it for a test is pasul. Mishum namar kil techel, because mentions complete techel. Dever Rabbi Hanan Gamliel. Rabbi Yochanan ben Havai Amar. He says afilu mar'eh sheni shebha kasher. Even the secondary shade of blue is kasher. Mishum shemar ushne tolaat, because it mentions the word of the thread of tolaat, which can be used as a play on the words of sheni, secondary. Tirabanan, teched en la b'dika, teched, you have no way of checking if it's kosher. Ve'en nikahit ela minucha, that's why you have to buy from an expert. Tiflin yesh lehem b'dika, tefillin you can check if it's kosher. Therefore, be'en hain ela minucha, but you still have to buy from an expert. Seferim mizot yesh lehem b'dika, Torah scrolls and mizot need to be checked, and can be checked. For anybody. You can't check the chilet. We know that he used to test it. Mighty he'll bring a certain type of thing called alam with fenugreek and lime and urine. Then which was 40 days aged. And he would soak the teched in it from evening till morning. If it faded, it was unfit, which means it was indigo. If it did not fade, it was teched and kasher. He'll bring hard barley yeast and put the thread through it. And bake it while it's inside. If the thread changed color, it is kasher. To change for the worse, it is pasul. Remember, shinui sheker, because it changes for the negative is sheker, which is bad. Shinui emet, but it changes for the good, which is better, is like emet, truth. So we see the testing is a bit able to. So why are you saying can't test? My in la b'dika na b'dika. What do you mean that no testing? Ata'ima refers to that there's no way for testing of the actual color, meaning for the correctness of it, meaning even if you tested it, there's no way to know if it was dyed correctly. That's why he need an expert to know who he needs to be dyeing it correctly. More more would only buy Techeled from Rab Achai, but could Rab Nitzab Rab Huda and tested it. The Ipra has it faded. But Rab Adam, when it tested Rab Ada's method, it upgraded, which means it's kosher. Savar Muslim, maybe this is possible because of the first test. Amar Rab Achai said, one second. What if it passed one and bad and failed the other? Well, it's neither indigo and not Techeled. Well, how does that make sense? Allah is saying that they were done together. If you tested Techeled with the first method, لا إبراد حجتك كشران if it did not fade, then it's definitely kasher. إبراد حجتك if it did fade, but كيمنا بالعادة بحمير كاسر, then do the second test of the yeast. كشران اللي معاط لك كشران, if you change for the better it's kasher. The good if it's bad it's possible. شاخم تنا sent a message. شمعوتا عدد إتمار. They said yes, it's true. You could use as a double standardized test. If it fails the first one, you could use the second one to ensure that maybe it's kosher. Rav Mani Daik Visavin came from Rav Mani was very careful to buy the according to the stringency. Amar Husaba, certain rabbi said, Hachi Avud Kamach Kamach, this is what your ancestors used to do. But Asach Zakawan, they were very successful because of that. Because they were stringent, they were very successful. Till we're done. Someone buys a garment that had strings on it from the market, makes it other people from a Jew, you can assume it's kasher. Min Avil Chami bought from a goy, Min had a garag from a merchant is kasher because we assume a Jew sells him. Min Hydopis from a goy, a random guy, not like an established merchant in Pasul, because it might be fake. Even though the halacha is that a person can't sell a garment with tzitzit to a goy, if you bought it from the merchant, it's still kasher. My time, why can't you buy it from a goy? Why can't you sell a string with a tzitzit garment with strings to a goy? One opinion says because maybe of zana, you're worried that maybe um a Jewish zona might be with him, or a different explanation, a goy might give it to a zona as payment, and then they might assume that a Jew paid her. Different explanations. Ravida Maria says no. Because maybe a Jew will join this guy with wearing tzitzit, thinking he's a safe Jew for the path, for the travels, and he might kill him. So for safety reasons. Okay. Yehuda Ramet Teched Le'Pazuzban each little better. Ravuna would put Teched Tzitzit on the four-cornered garment of his household people, even his wife. Muvarech Kol Safra Le'Tateh Tzitzit, and he would also make a beracha every morning. Before putting on his tzitzit, he would make a beracha on the tzitzit. Midinami. Now, since he put tzitzit to his wife's clothing, that must be is a beracha that is not on time, meaning it has to be done day and night. Because if it was only day and not night, then his wife would not be put on because wife is patur. So that's the case. Why do you make a beracha in the morning if there's a beracha 24/7? Kirabi must be going to the bitan. Whereas tiflin shel kozman shbenechan b'brechan the tiflin like according to the Rebbe, every time you put on tefillin, you're chayav. So too regarding tzitzit, even though you have a mitzvah all day. Yeah, hay kosher danami. So that's the case. You should make bracha every hour. Why only in the morning? Rabbi Yudav inish seniya he was very modest. He would not remove it all day. That's why he only did it in the morning. But why in the morning? Why did he do it before the morning? Because that's when he changed from his evening clothing to his daytime clothing. And that's putting on. That's why he be chayav then.